So, for many of us, getting laid off or getting fired is not our best moment. In fact, we often start to think about, gosh, what did I do wrong? What's wrong with me? This person should have gotten fired. Who do they think they are? And our ego starts to take over so quickly and really putting ourselves down and making us feel like not so great. But one of the things that I often do is I start to think about, all right, I need to get my ducks in a row. What are the 10 things I should be asking myself? And before I jump into these 10 questions, 5 today and 5 tomorrow, I often say, I change the way I view this. So instead of it happening to me, I think about this is happening for me. So the first thing I think for any of us is making sure that our mindset is in the right place because it's not fun to get fired. It's really not great to get laid off or anything in between. But honestly, think about it as the universe is doing you a favor that you are going to be aligning to something bigger and better than where you're at right now. So without further ado, let's jump into some of these questions you should be asking yourself if you got laid off or if you're fired. So the first thing you want to think about is where have you already made an impact? So over the last 5 to 7 years, where have you pulled a project across the line? Maybe something that you have done that you've been very successful at and you're very proud of. Take some notes. Make sure that you capture all of this information so that not only you can incorporate it in your documents such as your resume, but also your LinkedIn profile. So really think about what have you already accomplished and don't be afraid to go back 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. It's super important because really you're putting your brand together. And for those of you that want to jump ahead, you can download the free course, How to Build Your Brand for the Next Job, for your next job. If you want to, I'll put those details in the notes. It's a free course. It's really about branding. And I have already uploaded these 10 questions for you. So you can jump ahead if you want to. Second question is not only what were your most important projects, but what are your most important accomplishments? So think about the projects that were assigned to you, people that pushed things across your desk or maybe sent you an email. What are the projects that you were assigned to? And then what were the biggest accomplishments? And make sure that in the third point that you capture metrics. So it's how many people you managed, how many partners you worked with, how much money you spent, how much money you collected, what it did for the bottom line of the organization. Any metrics you can collect about the projects in which you worked is super helpful because unfortunately, women put fewer details on their resume, on their LinkedIn profile than men. And so oftentimes it looks like we don't have the same level of impact. And for those of you that are looking to take that next step in your career, oftentimes people want to make sure you have profit and loss experience. And for any of you who pay bills at your house, you're very familiar with paying bills, having debt, getting things done. So many of us have that experience, but oftentimes we don't talk about it. So make sure that you document not only the projects, your accomplishments, but also your metrics. The fourth thing you should think about are the obstacles you have overcome. So whether maybe the timeline was off because you didn't have the right products, maybe you didn't have the inventory, maybe you were down a person, maybe someone else started it and you had to clean up before you got started. So my thoughts to you now is what obstacles did you have to overcome and how did you go about that? These are great resume stories. These are great stories inside your interview. If you do need resume help, which I often do because it's hard for me to write my own documents, I often recommend Kathy Posner. She's helped me and about 25 other of my friends. So if you are one of those people that are like, this is great, JJ, I really appreciate this advice, but heck, I hate writing my resume. Kathy Posner came out with a new book of different ways to write your resume too. If you don't have the funds to hire a resume writer, you can get her book and she has a variety of formats before and after, which is so incredibly helpful. The fifth thing you need to think about is what recognitions have you received? Have you gotten a day off? Have you gotten an award? Did you get written up in the company newsletter? Make sure you highlight your recommendations and ways that you've been recognized, because oftentimes we're so busy focused on the goal of the project that we do not want to maybe spend too much time or energy on people giving us accolades. But more now than ever, it's important that you understand the recognition that you've received. And if you know the person that's giving you the recognition, or if there's someone on your team that nominated you for an award, or somebody in your industry, even reach out to them and see if they'd be a testimonial or a reference, or maybe even write something on your LinkedIn page. I think for many of us, we try to do it alone and go alone. And in the research I've done to advance women in the workplace, it's obvious that we need people speaking up on our behalf, especially in rooms that we're not invited to. So for those of you that are interested in learning more, join us tomorrow. But those are just a few tips, right? On questions you should be asking yourself if you've been laid off or you've been fired. And for an entire list, as I mentioned, you can download my free course, How to Build Your Brand for the Job You Want. And I will link that in the notes. Please put any comments, thoughts, and if you want to see when I go live tomorrow, just hit subscribe on the channel and it will notify you then. So thanks for joining and look forward to your career advice. Have a great day.